been neglected. It's a simple logic. This is a really no-brainer when you start thinking about it. And therefore, it's the same thing with the whole movement of history. Man has had to go down all these wrong roads, try all these other fixes and remedies. It's like trying to call a TV mechanic, to do surgery on your child when you have to do surgery on the liver. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is what we've been doing. You don't call a tree surgeon when you need your TV fixed. We've been doing this. We've been doing this.
Let me see here. What is it about those who think they need medications and prescriptions for everything under the moon to help solve their problems? Is it because they need the mind-altering drugs to block out the problems of the world? To me, that's exactly what the elite want. Explain that.
Yes, you're right. And remember, in some certain instances, the medication is very necessary. If you're schizoid, you will literally think of those medications as an elixir.
Yeah.
But that's in the extreme cases where to offset some very, very negative stuff that's happening in your mind will drive you to absolute suicide and despair. Perhaps, because I'm not bashing the science that has created these medications. They're necessary just in the same way that therapy is necessary. Or a hospital is necessary if you broke a leg. You may hate hospitals, but man, you won't be thinking that if you have a car wreck or your child has broken its arm or something like that.
Yeah.
And so a schizoid person clings to his medicine like, I need this, man. This is my elixir. Thank God for this. Yeah, because what's happening in that poor person's mind, our streets are filled with these poor people. Ever really found out what it means to be schizoid? Ever found out what it means to be in rags and walk in the street? That you'd rather live on alcohol and just be that kind of way? Have you ever been in that person, like say, walk in that person's shoes to find out why a person may have made those choices? What might be going on in that person's mind that's so frightening and so deadly and so full of despair that, even going to what we know, another affluent group like us, say, there's bloody doctors and their medication. A poor person like that who's seen the abyss, who's walked on the edge of insanity, can we walk in that person's shoes before we say what this person's reality is and the losses they may have felt and the way they may have seen reality? Because a lot of these people, a lot of these so-called, derelicts and people who have to live in this way have actually been to the edge. They've seen the world for what it is, but they couldn't handle it. So therefore, the part answer to the question is that they require some sort of medication because their spirit wasn't up to it. They couldn't handle looking at the reality or the state of decay, or in many cases what the angels had to show them. When that veil is pulled back, not on the ideas of reality, but on reality itself. And many people listening to my voice may have even had people in their family that this has happened to. So if that veil is for any reason, whether it's a demon pulling it back or it's an angel pulling it back, and you see what is really out there, the state of decay that man has made of the world and made of consciousness and made of himself, that is not particularly pretty. It's one of the reasons why I like rock music and heavy metal, because these guys point this out. It's brutal, but they're going to say, hey, we'll put your face in it. We'll show you what a mess man has made of the world and what a state of decay actually exists. We'll bring it right up to your face. And I think it's a very healthy thing to do. But there's certain people, you see, whose psyche couldn't take it when they were young. And therefore, the medication in some of these establishments, they're dependent on it. But to get back to the main point of your question, is of course it's escape. And don't forget that it's also a way to keep out all the stimuli that's coming in. It sort of connects a little bit to what I've just been saying. But in a more milder way, our brain and our senses are absolutely besieged morning, noon, and night with stuff. A lot of it extremely toxic and poisonous, the stuff that I point out in these advertisements, the subliminal content, the pornographic content, the very, very satanic content. I mean, really evil, not what people think, going around wearing a pentagram T-shirt, or listening to Black Sabbath. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about absolute, deep, ancient evil is alive and well, and it's coming into our home, the ancient sorcery. And therefore, people's brains are getting toxic. And therefore, there's only a certain point. There's only a certain point you can cross before that person cannot take it anymore. And then don't forget, add to that all their domestic and professional trauma, trying to come up to speed to get a degree, trying to have a family, trying to go to work every day and hang out with those bozos, dealing with the neighbors, shopping, earning a living, dealing with intimate relationships, walking the dog. Do you realize that our world is just filled with stuff to do, and most of it is illegitimate? It doesn't even have anything pertaining to our own spiritual development. So how then, in that kind of illegitimate world, where we're just functionaries, either playing a role or have been deluded into some other nonsense pertaining to relationships or domestic minutiae, And then not only this other higher level of toxicity that's pouring in, of course there's going to be a terrible consequence, a reaction. And then in comes the Leviathan. Here's now where we come to the crux of your question. Knowing that, because as I said in the earlier part of our conversation, these guys have their fingers on the pulse. They've not only created the problem, they create the so-called solution. Knowing that they still need workers to run the hive, knowing that they still need the operative, knowing that they still need this remote-controlled robot, this slave, they can't completely have you go insane and become pathological. That's no good. So they come in with their medications. And so the entire same Masonic, pan-Masonic Leviathan that runs the medical profession and all their so-called bromides is exactly the same cabal as creates the toxicity with the other hand. This is the most incredible thing. As I said, many people see this and they can't even handle it. They go insane just from seeing this. But nevertheless, this is how this great theater play works. And so you don't completely drop through the net. They can't afford that, you see, because they still need somebody to run the machines, so to speak.
Yeah.
And therefore, they keep the person then in a sort of a delirium, a drugged-out, semi-human, pseudo-intellectual, pseudo-emotional. Right? We're not even in our true emotions anymore, like I've been saying. We're not in our true senses anymore. We don't spend time in nature. We don't even spend time with our own children or with animals as much as we should. Everything is a slave. We're either a slave to it or they're a slave to us, hence the usual dynamics that you have in the family.
Hey, Michael, we got about a little less than 2 minutes left, but our chat room is blazing, man. Like, we're still getting more listeners in, and I got to ask this question because this is very critical. Hollywood and mainstream documentaries seem to be implementing Armageddon into the collective consciousness. Could a man-made event be being planned that is made to look natural?
Oh, yeah. It has been done in the past. It's actually been done continually. And remember, as the Age of Awakening continues, as the slave starts waking up, these architects of control are right there with their syringes ready to do something again to put us back into our to put us back into the penitentiary or to that decorated incarceration. So you can never rule that out. Absolutely not.
Man, I sure do appreciate you coming on, Michael. I got to have you back on because these listeners are fascinated by this, and they had a crap load of questions to ask. But and I actually missed one caller that called in. I guess he hung up. And I apologize, caller. I'm sorry, and I'll try to get you on next time. But Michael, hopefully I can get you back on. And to the listeners, thank you for coming and listening to Michael Tsarion. You can go check out his work at michaeltsarion.com. That's Tsarion. Until then, stay tuned. I am interviewing Dr. Stoney Monteith tonight at 7 o'clock p.m. Central U.S. time. Take care, and I'll see you tonight.